this is where the movie The Matrix definitely gets it wrong, right? Philosophically, the movie doesn't make any sense, but it's one of the greatest films of all time, so we'll let it pass. But philosophically, the movie doesn't make any sense because ultimately, it doesn't really matter how your experience arises. It makes no difference. The attempt to get to the real world, it's nonsensical because the machines actually did the most ethical thing they could because that's what they needed to survive. So they didn't just not care about our brains. They could have easily do that. They created a world for us in which it makes sense to exist, and that it has the exact same as long as you experience it as an agent, as a pain, as a love, as a whatever. That's reality. It doesn't matter how it comes about. It makes no difference. If you stub your toe in the middle of the night, if I tell you it's all a simulation, you're going to slap me in the face. You don't care. I was like, no, that's real. Okay, yeah, it is. It's what you're experiencing right now. And even if you want to say it's all going to be mended at the end of time, okay, but right now I'm experiencing it, So then that and it's actually funny. I don't know if you saw it. Keanu Reeves was recently talking in an interview, and he said, I met this teenage girl, and she'd never seen The Matrix, so he told her like what the premise was, and he's like, and we were like, in a computer simulation, and then we're trying to get out of it, and she goes like, why? and he said, wow, what a smart kid. it's like, what's the difference? So now
well, to be fair, they had a character in the movie who said that.
Sure, but he was the bad guy. But he was painted as the bad guy, is my point. So Cypher got it right?
This episode is fueled by Enigma Coffee, a ritual, a reminder, a first step in your daily routine towards a more realized, fulfilled, and happy life. Drink Enigma Coffee, expand, enjoy, evolve.
Right. So then the funny thing is that it really points to we have a delusion about what matters, right? Maybe pun intended, maybe not, I'm not sure. But people, and I'm sure you're familiar with people that like believe that we're going to ascend to the fifth dimension soon, right? Okay. What I always point out is like, okay, hold on. If you tend to get cranky about things right now, do you think that's going to stop in 5 dimensions? You're going to be cranky about 5-dimensional things. That's all. Like it's at no point you're excused from the work you have to be doing from your personal side. It never goes away. But then I'm connecting it to the ChatGPT thing, which is that the reason I asked you for a specific example is because if I would challenge you, and maybe you can come up with an example, but I can't see anything that if you actually look at the details of how that executes, 10 years ago, if I would tell you something like ChatGPT exists, you would be telling me the same thing about it. It was like, yeah, but everybody can just type it into it, whatever they want. Because here's the truth about ChatGPT.
I have an example.
Please, but before you give it to me, here's the truth about ChatGPT. Right now, as it stands, you can write any code. You can ask it to debug the code. You can ask it for a code to try and break into the Pentagon and get all the information. It would have safety mechanisms, but you can override them. There's ways to do it. All of this is possible right now with ChatGPT. The world is fine. That's because it's actually way harder to do all of these things that people imagine. Again, like with the $8 billion, it doesn't free you from the decision-making process. So I do think that this, aside from the fact that I do know that there's adults in the room that are looking from the other side and there's safety mechanism there, but even without that, they're ushering us in. They're showing us the way. And we have to figure it out ourselves. We cannot rely on them helping us because it would be equivalent to like if you hatch the egg for the chick, it won't survive. You have to let it break the egg by itself. And it's essentially the situation we're in. To me, both intuitively and both in terms of what I see, I see that is the case. We're being gently ushered towards a thing. And you nailed it when you said it's people postulate these things because they're driven by fear. And then it's very natural to say, yeah, but maybe they're doing it to walk you into a trap. It's like, listen, you can say this about anything.
They probably have better things to do.
You can talk about anything. Yeah, they can literally squash you like a bug. Like it's not. They don't need your presence in any particular container. So yeah.
Coming back to ChatGPT,
yeah, please give me an example.
Yes,
yeah.
What I thought about is exactly what you just said about decision making.
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem is not at least I didn't think about the problems with the outside world, but much more with the inner world, because it seems that something that gives you sort of much larger range of possibilities. The main question is, how do you apply it? The decision making, what do you focus it on? And I think that most people, same with social media, is just gonna waste their time hours upon hours, days upon days, doing nothing, scrolling, watching things they shouldn't.
But how is that connected to ChatGPT?
Well, I mean, you can do this. Ultimately, you can do the same thing with Chat GPT.
I don't think so, because
just
ChatGPT
doing.
requires a very particular input from you. It requires you to ask the right questions. It actually stimulates your brain in exactly the right ways to lead you to be a better decision maker. So it's not the same as, it's not like somebody prepared content for you, just scroll. This is very easy. Interacting with ChatGPT is never like this. Even in your brain, you're going to have to pause, formulate, think about what you want to ask, what's the next thing. That's why I don't see
That's
it
a good
ever
point.
lending it. That's why
That's a
I
good
see.
point.
Huh?
That's
yeah.
a good
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the same, and it's true. If I want to steelman your side of the conversation, you can say that maybe people will just use it as a, like a thing that does everything for them. That, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm just gonna write all my papers or gonna do all the thing. I think if you're really gonna run through it, you would see that in every single case of that, you would still have a much larger possibility of the thing helping you formulate better things, because you're going to be competing in a much larger space of others that are giving you some examples of how to do it. So if you're going to be the one that is just kind of asking everything to be copied, forget about the fact that now you have like a thing to just flags. Like it tells you that it's all ChatGPT. So you can do that. You can just put a prompt. Somebody sent you something. It will tell you what percentage of it was
Oh, nice.
ChatGPT. Yeah. So that alone kind of limits that possibility. So you're not gonna get away with anything. But also, very quickly you're going to start feeling empty, and that kind of emptiness, it requires immediate action from you.
But
W-
does it? People feel very empty these days.
no, so I'll tell you why it's different. Again, it has to do with the accessibility. So for example, with the scrolling, you feel emptier and emptier, so what you do is you keep trying to get the fix, but you just have to move your thumb, right? There, when you feel empty, if your only way is to actually like pause and like, okay, what am I actually trying to do? The tiniest moment of that will give you the kind of meaning of reciprocation that doesn't exist in social media. It's a lot more deep, right? Because you're interacting with the true nature of yourself. You realize your limitations, which is painful, but you're forced to keep like carving it out.
So you're saying that it would actually purify people more and make
Absolutely.
them more focused.
Absolutely, you will be forced. You'll be forced to become more than what you are, because you're going to become more of what you actually are, right? And then I still agree with you, by the way, that we still have to solve the social media problem. The reason I wanted to challenge you is because, first of all, there's these new statistics that came out that I'm not necessarily, I want to make it clear, I'm not making a case for or against it. I'm just planting an idea that it might be that we are a little bit too hyperbolic in terms of what, it's very easy to get on the ride of doom and gloom, right? So everything that Tristan Harris is doing, that even though I do think is a positive agent, I don't see him doing favors anyone,
What
because
is he doing? I'm not familiar.
he's one of the first kind of like alarm activators around all the stuff with social media.
This episode is fueled by Enigma Coffee, a ritual, a reminder, a first step in your daily routine towards a more realized, fulfilled, and happy life. Drink Enigma Coffee, expand, enjoy, evolve.
Media. They made this famous movie. I forget the name of it. It was on Netflix. About like all the dangers of social media and what it's doing to the youth and all the stuff, the memeplex of that, right? But what I'm seeing is that A, they're not offering solutions, and B, what are the things going to happen? It's not going anywhere. It is going in one direction. It's going to happen. It's happening, right? So all you're doing really is you're creating doubt in the minds of the people whose actual well-being depends on understanding these tools better than anyone else. The people who are going to be left behind more than anyone if they don't engage with it currently are the 40 and 50-year-olds that are like working for Walmart, who can literally change their lives if they use these tools correctly. And if they just heard an expert telling them that this is all of this danger, they're not going to engage with it, and they're going to be left behind. They're truly going to be left behind. It's going to be this.
And by the way, I'm not ever for destroying anything or putting a label of it's bad. I'm just talking more on sort of the level of personal well-being for
Yeah,
people
I
and
agree.
making their own judgments.
Yeah,
Because
so
I'm definitely never an advocate for people should do that or people should do this. I think
So
it has to be a personal search.
Recent statistics showed that actually, even though it is true that there are some cases, if you analyze the data in a particular way, you can talk about higher suicide rate at a particular age because of the comparison of the image. All of that, I'm familiar with that. But there is a case to be made that actually there's other statistics, other parameters that are way higher than ever, and they're positive ones. So, for example, understanding social cohesion and understanding the boundary element. So and I see it already like in my younger nephews, like they understand boundaries in a way that nobody when I was that age understood. Right? They know what they want. They understand. Like there's a solidified agency there in a way that was never before. And
But I'm
yeah,
sorry,
sure.
just to play devil's advocate.
Sure.
But they know what they want as they truly know what they want, or they know what they want because they've seen it and were
I will
taught
clarify.
that
There seems to be a better understanding of the true ethical code. So there's they understand what's correct, what's proper. We can look at the details because I don't want to pull it out of my ass, but there's definitely parameters we can look at that seem that a lot of positive things like less early pregnancies, less crime among teenagers, less violence. Now, you can keep playing this game forever. You can say, yeah, but that's because they engage with each other less. Okay, fair enough. But we really want to look at the situation for what it really is. I do think that everything you're pointing to is true. There's definitely the problems we need to remedy, but I think they are not the problem of the tool, but the problem of the monkey behind the tool currently. So we brought all of our old,
but isn't it
ways.
always the case?
It is always the case, but there's also the potential that we're bringing about what we can become and already becoming. To some, I do see a very big emergence of a more proper, holistic way of looking at each other, talking to each other. It's really in small things, but it's really there. Like it's so much easier now to behave with one another that is like a lot more humane that ever we could think about. Like there's definitely the problems in the world, but it's much easier to like hug people. It's much easier, you know what I mean? Like
But I think it's also because the level of safety, the level of comfort is so much greater. Because if we were in the forest, potentially of two conflicting tribes,
yeah.
we might not be so willingly hug each other. But this
Wait,
is
so
sort of-
what are you connecting it in our situation then?
I'm connecting it to, you say it's easier for people to make those genuine connections.
In places in the world where they are influenced by all this social media is what I'm saying.
Oh, I
So,
see.
so it might be the result of that.